will be, the firm as a whole will be increasing their rates by $25, but we will only have a $10 increase for this, for us as an attorney. But that's something you'll still need to think about. I know that y'all had asked to move from 10,000 to 15,000. I did call the vendors themselves with the paper products. They are anticipating a 30 to 35% increase. Paper, there is a shortage in paper, so they are predicting that. They're going to try to maintain 30% with their current staff or clientele. So I did increase the printing by 30%, and that was across the board. Also, it was time for the maintenance of our machines. They came in last week, and when that was being scheduled, I was informed that our batteries in the DS200s and the auto marks needed to be replaced. So I asked for a quote on that, and I said, can we hold off on that for another year? And they said yes, but the batteries were supposed to be replaced last year. So you'll notice an equipment repair. I have put that in the budget. The DS200 batteries are $195 a piece, and the Automark batteries are $185. I do have good news. Our DS200s and the Automarks have their software has been upgraded at no charge. There is normally a significant fee for that to go up to election wear, but while the guy was here, we got permission from the corporate office to go ahead and install that.
Corporate board elections.
No, the Print-elect. So they overnighted him the information for the Automarks, and he was able to go ahead and upload the DS200s. And just so you know, we were only one of 5 still left with Unity in the state, the software. So now we're in the majority with electionware at no cost to the county. So, I will let you know that we found out in staff meeting last week that our phones are being changed. We're expecting that change in April or May. And my question was, how is that going to affect our budget this year and next year? And what I'm being told is that the long distance fees will go away, but I have left it in here until I know what that cost is going to be. But they're saying that the cost per month should remain the same. So we're looking at just a difference of $100. So I did leave that $100 in there. The board training, I did increase that a little bit because of meals increasing in price. Yes, sir.
Question. The figures we had earlier since increased by almost 10%.
Because we only got one conference.
Okay.
Last year it was 2 conferences because we had 2 elections. Each year, I had sent an email to the state board to try to find out how I would know how to budget for conferences. And Ted sent me a very good explanation that however many elections you have is how many conferences you'll have. We will only have one election in the 22-23 budget year, and that will be the general election. So we'll only have one conference. And so that board training will only have the one, and they're hoping that it will be on site. So. And like I said, I also added a little bit just in case the hotels decide to increase their prices as well. The good thing is, it's not that far away. It will be August when we have the conference. So it's not like it's next year, or, I mean, it's still a couple months away, but I've adjusted the way the prices are increasing right now. So we went from $615 to $675, so I increased it about $60 for each board member. And the same for staff training. I did ask the question about help, if we would be able to get that side of the building once they have moved into their new facility. And I was told that no outside agency would go next door, but they were looking at office space for a couple of the other county departments. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to get that space or not. We really do not know when they'll actually be moving out. I did ask one of the ladies last week, because originally they had told us the end of January, middle of February, but we're already past the middle of February. And she said it's probably going to be another couple of months that they were going to transition. They cannot be closed because of what they do. So they are doing it in stages, so it may be April before they finally get moved out of the section next door.
Is there building?
I think they're still doing some things. I know we smelled a natural gas odor the other day, so I think they were testing the lines for that. So I think it's the final touches that they're doing. And making sure that final inspections are done. But I think the building is done as a whole, except for maybe the punch list and things like that. The county manager, the assistant county manager, and the intern actually made a visit down here last Thursday. I had asked them to come by just to see the security cages, and I would like to show y'all the security cages after this meeting today. But I also had him look at the gutter and the roof for the building out back, and you'll see that under capital expenditures. And I will let you know that he did send maintenance out here to look at it as well. So we're hoping that will be taken care of sooner than later. We show them inside how the roof had leaked and how they had to actually cut slits to let the water drain out of the insulation. We'll see how that goes.
That be an expense in this year or in the budget?
I don't know.
Be our expense or the county's expense?
If it's this year, it will be the county's expense, because we do not have it in our budget. That's why I'm requesting sooner than later. I will let you know that while the gentleman was here doing the upgrades to our machine, he did give me a little bit of information. The AutoMark machines, which is our ADA machines, as soon as the new firmware is approved by the State Board of Elections, we're actually on, I think it's the EGR 5420. As soon as they move up to a newer firmware, and Mecklenburg County accepts that. They're usually the first county to get the new firmware. Our auto marks will not be able to be used. So I did ask for a new quote, because the last time a quote was received, it's been a couple of years ago, for the new ADA machines, and we're looking at $86,000. That's for 25. We have 25 auto mark machines now. They will actually take those as a trade-in, $200 a piece, and that has already been deducted from the total price. If that happens sooner than later, I would ask for probably 16 machines to start instead of 25, if we do not have it in our budget. But that is something I would like for this board to consider. We go ahead and put it in our capital budget. It is in our long-range plan, and I will update the cost in there up to the $86,000 mark, but we do need to start preparing for when and if that happens. Because we don't know when that could be, but the firmware has not been approved through the state board as of yet. And I can get y'all
What is the
prices.
model of the machine? 86,000 for what machine?
That is the firmware. It's 86, that is Express Votes. That is the new ADA machine. It's an Express Vote ballot marking device. And they do give us a customer loyalty discount of $3,600. The trade-in allowance for the auto marks is $5,000. So, I mean, that's just.
They be selling those machines.
What
You said we get a special customer discount.
they'll actually, from what the gentleman told me, they destroyed the machines. So technically, they're just giving us $200 to be nice. The machines, no one is using the auto mark machines. They've been around for a very long time.
So let me understand that $86,000 is reflected in this budget?
It is not.
Okay.
It is not. I just found this out.
And it was 16 machines or 24?
This is the 24 machines.
24 machines.
I mean, 25 machines, I'm sorry. 25 machines. And this is the ADA machine. This is something we have to have. It's not by choice. We can't have one or two machines because we cannot restrict ADA compliant machines. We would have to have one for each precinct and one as a backup. That's what I'm saying. We could start with 16. I prefer 18, but with the auto marks, we actually have 25 of those.
I'm a little confused. Is this machine a new machine? Firmware update.
It is a new machine.
Untested as far as we're concerned.
We would have to actually test that machine before we could approve the purchase of it. This express vote, I know that Person County just went to the express votes during the municipal election. There are probably 10 or 12 counties that have already made the change. And more made it during the HAPA fund purchase than when we had the HAPA funds last year. I don't know how many have actually gotten or received those machines from the purchase of that.
Are you going to try to purchase those before the election?
No, ma'am.
So that would not be a part of the
The primary election, I hope we will not have to do it before the general
That's,
election.
yeah, I was saying, I knew it would be the primary.
Right. Right now, I'm not pushing for it. but we will need it sooner than later. It is something that the auto marks will be what they consider discontinued, or we will not be able to use them once that firmware has been upgraded. And that's the security in the systems.
So when do we show that in the budget?
If you tell me to put it in, I would like to put it in this budget
Okay.
that we are presenting, but like I said, this is just information I received the latter part of last week. And I wanted to talk to you first, and I also need to talk to the county manager, the assistant county manager, to make sure they understand the need for this. We don't know when will be made that it will be mandatory that we will have to go with the newer system, with the auto marks. They call it a dinosaur, but it still does what it needs to do.
So that'll take our total budget over 600,000.
Well, the capital is a different expenditure. The very last line actually should not be in the total, but we're including it because it is an overall budget item. But yes, it will take us over 600,000 because they will put it in the capital line.
And is there any advantage to asking for 16 machines instead of 25 that we need?
It just depends on how much they have. I know that the county has been putting money aside for capital needs. And it will depend on how much money the Board of Elections could be allocated. I would ask for the full amount,
Okay.
but if they tell me we do not have that amount, then I will ask for less machines.
Okay.
Yes. Does that make sense? I would like to have as many as we would need, but I can work with the lesser number.
So you're saying that that amount of 86,000 will be added to the capital outlay line item last page?
Yes, ma'am.
Which was 24,000, and
That was for the year and the gutters.
So what do you want, some motion to include that, or?
Well, just that we do need to include it, and I will actually get that included. I mean, I know it's gonna come as a shock to them, but this is not something they're not aware of. This has been on the radar since 2016. That there was a possibility that the auto marks would be decommissioned.
we've got to have at least 16, because we can't do part of it.
Right, we have to have, that is a must have.
Well, unless we're not required to change over this.
Well, I don't think we are going to be required to change over this year. But-
Meaning 2023.
Which is still included in this budget. Because we're doing the 22-23, so it could be in the first quarter of the 2023, it could be the second quarter. I don't know where the firmware approvals are with the state right now. But once that is approved, like I said, Mecklenburg decides they're going to use that, the auto marks will not work. Everyone will have to go to the new firm.
But you're gonna ask for 6,000, right?
I'm gonna ask for the full amount. But if they tell me they can't, then I will have the amount for the 16 machines. Because that will be the bare minimum.
We must disclose everything.
Yes, I will disclose everything. I believe in transparency, so.
Fundamental question for me. This budget, this thing's driven by two activities. One is to keep the office open.
Yes.
salaries, benefits, et cetera. The other is controlled by the number of elections. Likely, well, we've got to have, and then the possibility of additional vote counts or what have you. If we go through the budget, how many elections are we anticipating for sure into 2023?
Into one, a general election. We will not have anything in the spring. Now, we will have early voting and election day voting, if that's what you're asking.
Well,
We'll have-
are we going to have a primary?
No, we do not have primaries for municipal
Okay,
elections.
municipal elections.
So the municipal election will actually take place in the November election for 2023. So we do not have primaries for that election.
So that's another budget cycle.
Yes, sir. But we would need to have the machines ahead of that.
Well, I'm thinking that this budget is going to run, when we're preparing, it's going to start July
July 1 through June 30.
30. Okay. Primary.
General.
One general election.
Yes. And there is one other thing I did want to point out. In the election staff, the precinct staff, and I did not number the pages at our chair's request, so I apologize for that. But on page, it's total page 3. I would like to request an increase for the one-stop officials. They have been making $9 an hour since at least 2013. I sent out a questionnaire to all the other directors in the state and compiled that information on what they're paying their one-stop workers. And there's only one other county that I received that is paying less or the same that we are. Most of them are $10 to $12 an hour.
This is election precinct staff.
One stop only. The chief judge, judge, and assistants for election day received an increase within the past couple of years, and they're still in line, and I'll be glad to share this information with you. We're pretty close with our numbers for election day, but all I'm asking for is to increase the one-stop hourly rate.
And that, you've got it on here from $9 to $10.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that what you're asking? Okay.
Yes, sir. And that is reflected in those numbers. Our temporary employees that come and do the work in the office here. And the other thing, they make $10 an hour. So this would bring them to the same level playing with $10.
That's under temporary salaries,
It is,
and you decrease that substantially.
yes, because we now have 3 full-time staff here in the office.
Let me back you up 1 second. So are we agreed that Paul is going to approve the entire $86,000? Everybody,
I was hoping that we could get to that when she goes line by line.
Yes, I
Because
just,
we
yeah.
need to go line by line to be sure that everybody understands what is happening here exactly. So she was just updating us and giving us information that she had received last week that's driving why she's
making these
making
changes.
these changes. Then when we go line by line, then we'll say, yes, we want you to do that.
Okay,
If that's fine. And my age, I have to do things one at a time.
okay, and I understand, but I wanted y'all to know the differences in the last time you saw this. And there's also been a change in the salary line items, which affects the health and all that, because the county updated that information as well. So that was not changed by me, that was actually changed from the assistant county manager's email last week after our department head. So we're ready to go through this?
I'm good.
Yes.
Okay. The very front, you will see the review of the proposed BOE budget. And if you want to number the pages at the bottom, we can do that. I apologize for not doing that. So we should have. A total of 10 pages. Okay, Tom had shared the analysis for the 2021-2022 versus the 2022-2023 budgets. And I added the 2018-2019 versus the 2022-2023 to that analysis. And the reason for that is the same type of election. Every 4 years, the election style or the number of elections changes. So you need to compare the elections that are the same. So in the 2022-2023 fiscal year, we will have one general election. And that will be in November of 2022. So if you're,
Can I ask a question on?
yes,
Well, you're gonna go by the, I'll ask that question when we get to the.
okay. So you will,
That's driven by, nothing but.
yes.
They drive.
We still you want to look at last year's budget because of the difference in cost and the different things that have been added. But in the 2018-19 year, like I said, it's the same type of election. But you'll see from last year to this year, the increase of the 19.04%. The reason for the increase is in 2021-2022, there was one election. I mean, you had the municipal election and a primary election. In this coming election, we only have one. So that's the difference in the increase. Is also a municipal election versus countywide. So we're going to start going through the regular salaries. You'll notice that those figures are different. I don't know if you brought the previous items or not. The county is using a COLA as well as a merit raise in their figures for all three positions. And like I said, these numbers came from the county. I had nothing to do with those
And we're
numbers.
all working 139,742.
139,742.
And you say that includes or does not include?
That includes the COLA and the merit raise, if that happens. Of
And that
course,
that total increase was what percent?
Roughly 3.5%.
Calculating that was 4.
They're telling me roughly 3.5%. And that's what he said in the department head. So those numbers again, I did not come up with. It's from finance and administration. The board member's salary moving down to 4111019. Same thing, that came down from the county. And then I did add the election pay that you receive in addition. And the $300 is for each election that we have. So that will also be different each fiscal year, depending on the number of elections. If we have the municipal and a primary, it'll be twice that. Keep moving down to,
Before we leave regular salaries.
Mhm.
I noticed that we had from 2018, right? 155,269 as a budget, which is comparable to what we're doing this year.
Mhm.
You know why that was so high?
there was 3 staff members and all of them, well, I know most of the ones that was working there had been here for a while. So longevity, and that also included longevity pay. Once you've been here a certain amount of time, you get longevity pay as well. So, and I think looking at that old budget, each of those 3 were paid longevity pay as well.
Okay, I have one question here. You came in April,
Yes,
and when April rolls around, your evaluation takes place, and you're supposed to get a raise at that time. That's what I've been reading, when she sends it out, what's her name? I can't remember her name, but
Avis.
Avis, when Avis sends it out, she asks you to do evaluations for raises at some point. And I don't understand the whole thing, but is that included, your raise in April, once you're here a year, is it included in the salary?
I'm not sure. I'm still waiting on an answer for that. If that is the way it's gonna work, and I left a message for that answer, so hopefully I'll have an answer for you. I have been told it's no guarantee.
Mhm.
It's not a promise, once you've been here a year, that you will get a raise. That happened with one of our staff members. So it's not a guarantee that just because you've been here a year, you get a raise.
Let me ask you a question. How do these salaries compare to salaries for others across county government?
Our county government, I do not know the answer to that.
Can we find out?
Sure.
So how long ago did you ask for the information about the after your year's tenure?
It hasn't been long. I tried to get in to see them yesterday and could not. So, and I don't know how I will find out about comparable, because there's really no one that's comparable to what our staff does here. But I will.
Okay.
Because no one, I don't know what a lot of the responsibilities would be. I'll see that. But I can find, I mean, I do have the analysis And I can go back and pull all those numbers for comparable positions in other counties. Because I had been asked previously by the board to find that information out. So I do have a synopsis of that. And when I did that, or it's the senior deputy director and the deputy director's positions. And we're trying to see the salaries.
Based on that, are we comparable?
To the counties of our size, no. Because, and that's the thing, most counties want the salaries of their employees to be comparable to the county population size. The problem with that is those counties are not in close vicinity of us. We're in competition with Guilford, Forsyth, Alamance, those types of counties. So looking at comparable salaries by population is not always the best way to go, but that's what counties do. They compare the size, the businesses, economic growth in the counties, they look at that for salary amounts.
So, member Schoolfield, did you get your answer to your question? And then
Yes, we did.
you got your answer.
Right.
Well, she's working on your answer. Member, now,
So let me clarify something from my perspective. What you're saying is there is not a salary grade classification across the board for all personnel within the county. It comes primarily from a regional aspect as opposed to population aspect.
The county does have a salary grade system, and that is being reviewed. We actually received an email from the HR director yesterday. They're trying to do the last 2/3 of the pay study that they started. I think they started it last year. They did 1/3. And we received an email yesterday that we have to fill out what we do, what percentage we actually, is just different job description, job functions, and what percentages that you actually do that. They're working on a new pay study, which would, I think, would upgrade the pay scale that you're asking. Some counties do that on a regular basis. Some counties only do it when they can afford it. It's not a cheap thing to do. But the county has started that pay study, and they have actually increased 1/3 of the employee's salary. Most counties try to look at the low, medium, and high grades and fall somewhere within there based on the demographics of common counties with the same population that they have. The PTRC is actually conducting this pay study for the county. Does that answer that? There's no simple answer,
There is if they know how to do it.
right? But
I
it's,
can tell you
there's a
that.
lot of factors that go into it. They look at the responsibilities of each position, what the education requirements are, if there's a years of experience requirement, and that's how they base where that employee will be paid, based on the pay scale that's been established by the county. I'll give you a good example. when I started, the starting salary for my position as director. I started at the very beginning,
It's a lower end.
at the starting salary. If the range, I'll just give you an example, say the range is 34,000 to 65,000. Which it was not, it was 59,912 was the starting salary for my position. That's what I started at. I had no experience when I started in this position. I had county experience, but not election experience. So that's where I started. Whereas someone else who may have had, say, 5 years experience in elections coming in, they may have started them at 62 or 63. So there's a lot of different things that are looked at based on experience, where you would fall within that. So I started at the very beginning with 0 experience.
They're flying without any training. That's where the mess is. Corporate doesn't make it that way.
No,
Right.
and the state does not. I mean, I'll tell you, everybody has a different way of doing it. With the state, if you are hired for a position that requires a high school diploma and you have a master's degree, they give you so much percentage of an increase for each level of education that you have. They also, it's the same thing with the years of experience that you have. They base it off of that. Most counties don't do it that way. And you're right, the private sector does. But county government is just not, the pay scale is not designed that way.
Okay.
Okay, we spent a lot of time. Okay,
I know where we're.
all right. Any other questions on regular salaries or board member salaries? Okay, temporary salaries, that's the ones that will come into the office and do different tasks that we may have prior to the election, after the election. Recounts, we have booths that are set up during different festivals, setting up at the libraries during registration day, voter registration days, and that is at $10 an hour.
How many employees?
It's just when we need those.
But you had to have some number to come up with 6,000.
Well, $10 an hour, so you got 6,000. I was basing it on, I did hours of what I would think we would use that individual instead of all people. You can't do people, it's how many hours.
What is the worst case scenario? You said recount. Obviously, that would be going back to the bank. Is there ever a situation where we might have to have a re-vote?
But I will tell you, I did find out more good news last week. If we do have a recount, now that we're on the electionware system, the State Board of Elections has a DS 8500
Think so.
machine. There are 4 machines in the state. If we have to do a recount, I can actually request that machine and it can count the ballots. And that is at no cost to this county. It would be delivered and we could use our SST to actually help us with the recount. So we would not have to have staff to do that. With the electionware system, you would be able to put in 300-400 ballots at a time, and it would count it for
Would be
us.
different than what we observed here in the recount.
Yes,
Where we may have to recount 2 or 3 times.
correct. But this, it would be able to be done through a machine. It would be quicker and more efficient, much quicker. Because I've heard about the machine, I've never seen the machine, but they say with large recounts and with the election where system, we're able to use that now, where with Unity, it's can count or the DS200s. What we did for a runoff. So that's an advantage as well. So we have to move on. All right, the elections precinct staff. This is for the 4 one-stop sites for the general election. And this is where I'm asking for the increase from $9 an hour to $10 an hour, and I do have backup to support that. The precinct officials for the 15 precincts, those are set salaries. So there's no overtime or hourly pay for that. It's actually a flat rate. And just so you know, and we'll go into this on the FICA and other things, the precinct officials during election day are not taxed. And I know you've asked me that, and I did not find out the answer to that yet. That is statewide. They are not taxed. So I have to assume, and I know what that means, that is, I don't know if that's a General Assembly law or a State Board of Elections ruling, but none of the precinct officials on election day are taxed,
Federal or state.
federal or state.
Do they have to put on their final taxes?
Yes. They still get a W-2 at the end of the year. But I guess it would depend on what tax bracket they're in. That is something I can't answer that. But anyway, the election day precinct officials are not taxed.
Can you share with us the requirement for each of the one-stop? Or the requirements for how many people are required by the state for us to have at each one?
They do not have a requirement. To run a one-stop site efficient, you need at least 8. That is the minimum.
I
For
thought
a
we had
general
requirement. You had to have
election.
a chief judge and you had to have
You have to have a chief judge.
and 2 judges.
You have to have 2 judges,
And
one,
you have to have someone at the machine.
yes, you have to have what? And Kathy, I need your expertise on this. 2 people at check-in, a greeter,
Yes,
2 people at ballots,
yes,
1 in help,
yes.
1 at the machine,
A greeter,
we said a greeter.
curbside, you
Curbside.
need at least, I mean,
That's
this is
the
just
bare
covering
minimum.
each basic area.
But you don't have to have a reason. I mean, you don't have to have a curbside if you got somebody out. You got somebody assigned just for that.
Yes,
That's all they do.
No, everybody moves around.
they move around, but there's other things. The curbside person may be checking people in. If there's no one at curbside and there's more people here, they can actually do check-in. Of course, with COVID, we have to have somebody sanitize. Someone's constantly cleaning the machines. They're wherever they are. I mean, you've got to have someone clean, but that's the bare minimum is they like 8. We will not have that bare minimum during the primary.
Well, you got it calculated based on 56.
Yes,
And so that's gonna be 12 per.
that is 12 persons, yes. And the reason for that is, for the officials, is the long hours. We split that, where it's 6 and 6. So it's still not 8. But we will have some periods during the day, there will be 8. And each site is different, depending on the volume of voters in that precinct.
And of course, I in stop about the different, one stop when there are not people in here voting, I see them doing something. It isn't anything but stamping some envelopes for mailing and that sort of thing. I saw, something similar to that. So,
We try to keep them busy.
Have you encountered any difficulty finding these people? I mean, this is almost like volunteer. Have you encountered any difficulty in finding the number of people who man these precincts?
Yes. And the reason for that is the increase in the time. Am I correct? It's based on, some people, it's in May, the weather's warm, and they do not want to work every day. Some want to work a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, some can only do certain days. And the one-stop officials are having some difficulty also balancing Republicans and Democrats. Because you try to have both a one-stop sites. So we try to keep it balanced. Is there anything else, Jerry?
No, well, the only thing that, you have to make sure now that everybody can pretty much do everything. You can't just come in and just say you're gonna be the greeter and just sit there all day. Everybody pretty much, it has to do everything. So you may have to do curbside. Everybody has to be versatile, and we have a lot of people that are not. So, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We still have plenty, but we do need to do some trainings very soon.
So my question is for the $10 an hour, not an incentive. Find these people to get them to come spend the day with us.
Next year's a little bit different. It's for another dollar. I'm trying not to ask for too much too soon, too quick. I can actually, my numbers will support the $10 an hour increase. I know that a lot of the counties did put in their emails back to me that they're asking for increases. So they'll be moving from the $10 an hour up in this fiscal year. I had like many of those. I've actually got one county that is increasing theirs $2 an hour, and they said that's probably not going to happen. So, asking for $2 an hour is a little bit harder than asking for $1. And they may still have an issue with $1 because they see that as a $1 raise. Most people like the quarter, the 50 cents, the percentage, but what these people have to do, $10 an hour is probably not enough. But being recognized and actually getting a raise is better than not. And that is one of the things that was asked during the training sessions and during the chief judge meeting after the election was if there was going to be a salary.
if you never worked before, you deserve that.
Yes, you do. You deserve a lot.
Yes. You're working.
Yes.
You're on your feet.
Yes, you are on your feet.
I was a precinct leader in California, San Diego County. We started at 5:30 in the morning. Up at 9:30. It's a long day. You're on your feet most of the day. And $10 an hour doesn't strike me as enough. So for the planning, that's fine.
I would like to be. But baby steps. Because you'll see, this is $98,000. And they're gonna say, well, last year it was 70, and I was like, well, never did have that 41. So it is going up. And when you look at that, you're looking at pretty much $100,000. And for 3 weeks. But it's a lot of personnel. So, we good with that? All right, so health insurance, those are the numbers that were given to me. FICA, the board members and the full-time staff was given to me. I had to add in the extra election pay and the one-stop officials and the temporary staff. And the FICA is at 6.75%, or 7.85%. Moving on to the next, 7.65%.
And I want to make sure that I mentioned that FICA was one of the items that
They added.
they say we asked for,
But
but we didn't ask for that. That's the way FICA works.
FICA is mandatory, and the difference, so you know, was the one-stop officials and the temporary, and the elections pay for board members, that was not included. They only included what was given from the county. The additional amounts were not figured in, because that's something that staff here would have had to do. It would, or the board, because the board actually did the budget last year. They overlooked adding those amounts in.
So that's a given. That
Yes,
was
you have
nothing that was
that.
requested from us after our budget. I mean, we're being told that we asked for it, but it's a given. I mean, it's nothing that we asked for.
So we didn't ask for it, and we should have.
Yeah.
Because corporation has to pay half of it, and the employee pays half.
I don't know if we should have, because I would think that through finance, it's supposed to be a given that they should have said, you know, you got that FICA in here, because that's the way it's
That's required
supposed
by
to
the
be.
law.
Right,
So, but the point being, it wasn't put in our budget
right.
for us,
Mhm.
whether it was an oversight on whoever was pulling the budget together, or
They still need to do
Call in comment.
that. Okay, so we're moving on. 4112310 regular retirement, those numbers were given to me. 4112410 unemployment, those numbers were given to me. And 4112510, those numbers were given. And those are regular retirement, unemployment, and workers' compensation. Moving on to
you don't have anything in there we're not covered by it. If we get hurt, if we stumble on the way out.
have good insurance.
Hey,
if you stumble out, we have to send you a risk management.
Okay.
Okay. Page 5, at the very top, 4123010, miscellaneous professional, that's the live streaming. I did add the 3, or we didn't have the 3 special call meetings included in there. Moving on to legal, 4123017. Like I said, starting July. What I was told was January 1, they had the $25 an hour increase for the whole firm. We are locked in at our current rate until June 30th. So the $10 an hour raise will not take effect until July 1.
So what's the hourly rate?
To
Those 260. 250. Oh, the number of minutes.
15,000.
Yes, it's 15,000, you know. You don't know, it's like pulling out a crystal ball. I hope it is, but I keep being told the general election is gonna be something, that's all I keep hearing.
And again, board members, this was $10,000 that the claim we asked for, we didn't ask for. They gave this to us to separate us from the attorney, the county attorney.
They made a mistake.
And so it's not that we asked for $10,000 that they gave us to hire somebody. to help us out.
It's worked to our benefit.
Exactly. Okay.
I think we have to do one. I
But,
really do.
The,
So,
Yeah.
I understand that they're doing something with the break. I think we've had some discussion. I would like, frankly, like to see them come here. Well, you know, the two people who really want to be able to look in the eye with Dr. Anymore. But you guys in my profession. But seriously, I do think we should think about it. Whether we can ask them periodically to just come and meet with us. You know, I don't think it has to be something like the last time. Emergency situation, but just you know, periodically. Sit and talk with them.
Well, that does give us a better feel for how they operate, how they think.
And they can share with us what's going on elsewhere.
so for him to come here, depending on how many hours he's here, you're looking at between 2,000 and 3,000 each time he comes here. Because he is paid half time for ride time. He's paid mileage, and then he's paid his full rate while he's here. But,
It was all food.
yeah, but, I mean, just so you know, we're looking at between $2,000 and $3,000 for him to be here.
What would it cost us to go meet with him? I'm
The
kidding. I'm
hourly
kidding.
rate,
Bring our rate, I guess.
the hourly rate. And so, and it's the same thing, when we're talking to him, we're paying for our conversations. Same thing with sending emails. His time that it takes him to read that email, to do his research, and to send it back to him.
Let's get on this thing, we would set up video conferencing.
Yes, we just have to get the
We'll
platform.
have to have a big screen TV somewhere.
We can, yeah, we have that. And we can do that, and that was gonna be the benefit of us having the laptops, and like I said, I did not get that done today, and I apologize. But,
Squeaky.
but we would be able to see a face and actually hear a face. I do like the capability that we can use their conference line, like we have done in the past, where you can, we're on the same line. So, we do have that benefit as well. But still, is 15,000. How many times
You could eat that $15,000.
with 5 visits?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm asking. How often would you want him to actually, or what would you think would be reasonable as far as how often you would want him to come in a fiscal year? And for what reason? Or is he looking at 4 times? So that right there,
I would say, county commissioners told us, if I remember, $1,000 if we needed see a real need to.
$20,000, bump it up to 20. That can say yea or no.
So you're recommending, okay,
Maybe leading into that, because we have.
And we still have the things.
but, yeah, but then we have not, if we're wanting him to come in more. See, we didn't know, we still don't know what the remainder of this year is gonna hold.
Personally, I would like to try to video conference. You know, we'll branch into inviting all the people to that cost, unless we've got a special need, we've got a special need. That's my personal. Training program worked pretty good with the state board.
So I think you help here, 15 or 20.
I say 20.
Ask for 20 and you get 15, you ask for 15, you get 10. I'd say ask for 20 and see what happens. That makes sense?
It makes sense that we are asking for help legal and being able to pay somebody who's gonna represent us. And I'm just saying to you and everybody else who's listening, $10,000 is nothing to expect someone to come in and give us what we need legal. I mean, we don't want to end up with a bigger issue than we have already with the pending lawsuit that's going on right now, when we can have the person, at our disposal because we don't have the money to pay. I'm just saying, that's just something that I think we need to think about. By asking for what we're asking for. We're not just doing it just to be doing it. We want to make sure we're legally covered if the need arises. And even like you said, if we have, remember, Schoolfield said, if we have monies left over, we know that money probably is going to be leaning toward the amount of money that we're asking for. So it might not be $20,000.
We don't want to put ourselves in the same position that we've been in.
How much have we spent so far?
3,800.
Yeah, it's close to 4,000.
That's what you
But we haven't gone to
Right,
the trial yet. Whatever's going to take place, so Thurman's in a better position to say something about it.
That is
different.
different. But it's something that we could stand some advice on that. But you look at what's going on now with the courts and the legislature, redistricting, and how that impacts the dates and requirements that we have and all that. It's a lot. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't understand it all. Mostly because I don't read those cases. But just to have, I guess that's one thing that I'm saying. I can live with video conference, but I think we need to include enough money in this budget to ensure that if we need to bring him here 2 or 3 times, or whatever, we have that. I think the question for us, and the time is questioning whether we should go ahead, spend the money that we have, and then go back to the commission.
Well, obviously, if it's going to occur between now and June 30th, we will have to have it in this budget. So we have a need, it's got to be this budget. You know, I reckon I just was manufacturing too long. I just hate to put it in the budget if we've got an option, and if we don't see that working, we opportunity to talk to county commissioners and say, listen, that budget was, and they've admitted they just pulled that figure, that $10,000 figure.
But why go to all that trouble? Why not leave in the budget? And if we don't spend it, then we just don't want, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I mean, the challenge that we were faced with, $41,000, do we want to go through that again? I mean, I think we need to put enough money there to accommodate our needs.
$20,000.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was
What?
that $20,000?
That's fine. It's just our money. Just keep in mind that it is our money that we're spending.
You know, none of us can tell the future. We don't know what our needs are going to be.
Well, at least we can approach it this way, if we have a plan to be much more involved with them. Make sure that we are acting appropriately.
I think it seems like we got a consensus to do it, but I just think we need to look at the fact that we're going to be presenting a budget that's double what it was last year. And we've only spent 40% of it this year. We got 10,000, we've only spent 4. Now, we're going to give them another budget that's going to be 100% more than last time. And we've only spent 40% of what we were given before. With the assurance that we can get that additional money we need. I just say.
Was that a verbal assurance?
That's what I've heard. Is that what you've heard?
Hearsay,
Yeah,
I don't go with hearsay. I just would rather someone tell us this is what we are going to do.
we may not get the 20,000, but you know, they may say, I'll give you 15,000. You know, I mean, I think we have to put ourselves in a position like Thurman said, that, you know, we do need to have more interaction with our attorney.
And I think this is something that some of you have been thinking about, you know. I think we need to have both lawyers again. Work with this on that particular case. Again, with my telephone, that works. I prefer to see. Thank you.
Well, I have the consensus, so it's easy. Okay, so moving on
So
to.
you have all that written down, so when they question
It's
you about
recorded. I've got it, yes.
Okay.
I wrote a lot of it down, but yes, I will go through it. And the main thing is Tripp's here to meet in person. All right, 412-4010 utilities. We've got that, the 10,000, these are anticipating the increases, like I told you in the past, with the prices, they, you know, electricity going up. I received a Duke Energy bill for last month and
I'm going to ask, how does this compare with what we're experiencing right now?
well, what I've done is use the most recent figures that we paid, and then the figures from last year that we have not experienced yet, and added the differences from last year to this year for comparable months, and added a little bit more to that.
We want natural gas. We've got 2,200 for us. My bill went up 40% from last year.
It is. So, but that's, we're doing well with our utilities and staying within our budget. So,
And that 15,000 figure, is that for if we get the?
if we get that. Now, if a department moves next door, I expect it to be 50-50 instead of 40-60, what it is now. That was an issue I had when I came here, I didn't know how that number came about. I still don't. Because they had 15 staff members over there, we had 30. That's more bathroom trips, that's more water usage, that's more sewer. So, but we pay 60%. So you know of the utilities now, where they
All
pay.
one meter.
I get the bill and I give them what their amount is to pay, the 40%.
So can that be added to your long range plans that whoever takes that part will be 50/50? So that it be out there. If they happen to give it to someone else, instead of allowing us to take it, that it be understood that that person would like for them to be 50/50 if that's what we can do.
Because they also had 2 additional buildings on the outside.
How could we get the 60?
I did not know.
I mean, they have
I
more
was gonna
staff
say,
here.
that sounds like to me, it ought to renegotiate.
And it could have been part of their agreement when they, I don't know how that came about. I never understood the difference. And like I said, that was an agreement evidently that was given to Hill when they first moved in there. Okay. So moving on to the 412-4030 service maintenance. We received the quotes on these items. So we know that these are the numbers that are expected for the next year.
Where does the 86,000 get added?
But that will be under capital.
Oh, okay.
In the
And so you know, in the voting equipment, the 34,744 does include the election wear maintenance. That's already figured into that number.
You want to ask the question?
That was really gonna be my question, what is it, the 34,000?
The 34,000 is for the maintenance agreement for the DS 200s and the and the Audemars.
And that's how many machines?
It is 25 Audemars and 33 DS 200s. And they came in and serviced those last week. It takes roughly 2.5 days for them to service every machine. And they took one machine with them. All right, is there any other questions on that? Okay, 412-4310 building repair. That's $1,000 for unexpected building repairs. Like a plumbing leak that maintenance will not be able to handle, or anything out of the ordinary. Moving on to equipment repair, 412-4320. That's
When you have a major unexpected building repair, $1,000 seems kind of low.
That's a good question. Very good question. That's something I will have to actually get with the county manager on, depending on the amount. Because I know they have up to a certain amount that they can expend, and you would actually have to talk to engineering services. If it's something, hopefully it would be something that's under warranty, but we don't know.
Right.
I mean, but that's what the general fund is used for those unexpected emergencies.
So if it was more than $1,000, we would be able to go to county manager and not have to worry about getting that money.
We would hope.
You don't hope for,
You know, we broke down utilities with and without, with the whole building and that part. Looks like to me we ought to do something here to reflect the fact that we would expect if we're going to take the building, we would expect more. I mean, you pick it up twice.
Yeah, but without knowing if we're gonna get, we can.
How are you planning to use this over here on the utilities, that is looking
As if we got, I mean, I could ask,
at. Well, I
but
mean, to me, it just,
we have it's not even a 50% chance.
But building repair is something that I would see county commissioners taking care of
Yes,
this building.
yes, it's a county building.
And I would think that would go under capital outlay.
Well, I can tell you this, I wasn't gonna bring it up, but I will bring it up. The heating system for the workshop quit 2 weeks ago. And the compressor and the fan had to be replaced. One of the line items that was cut was that. So I asked what was gonna happen when I got that bill. And the county manager actually called engineering services, and engineering services covered that cost. So we do try to work together. When that bill actually came to me, we called them, they took that bill back, and they have paid that. It was not.
It was not.
It was not. Our staff, county staff, was able to fix the repair, so what the bill was for is actually the parts. So it was actually less than $500. But still,
So we do have some other options.
we have other options, depending on what it is.
Can you ask if the building repair can be moved to capital outlay? And that way they do take care of it without.
Well, building repairs would be considered, if it's major building repairs, capital outlay. But these are just unexpected building repairs that can be repaired for less than $1,000. Say a window, the lawnmower threw a rock and you had to replace a window. I mean, something like that, because
yeah, load is broken.
yeah, you have a commode that's broken. The county staff can actually do a majority of those repairs, so mainly what you're paying for is the parts for the repair. But I can ask if we do get the other half of the building, if that can be increased. All right, so moving on to 412-4320 equipment repair. This is the batteries for the DS200 and the Automark. The batteries are supposed to be changed every 5 years. The DS200s were purchased in 2016. I do not know when the Automarks were purchased. I saw it before that.
Now, these are the machines that we're planning to replace.
The Automarks.
Yeah.
So but they're already outdated, the batteries. They should have already been replaced.
How long are we planning to, even assuming that we get the 86K?
If they tell me that I can purchase those and give me a deadline, we can actually remove the 4625.
I have a little battery tester.
I wish you
That's
would
pretty
say-
good.
And I actually, from what the batteries were, that's just in case the power goes out, the machines can still work. And I said, well, what if we don't replace them, because we usually have it plugged up. We're at fault for not replacing the batteries.
I assume that chargeable batteries.
I don't know. I mean, well, yes, because when you plug it in, they're charging you. But when it's like your cell phone, you can charge it for so long, but the battery life still, just like in your car. You buy a 5-year battery, it may or may not last 5 years depending on the charge.
This DS200 we're keeping.
The DS200 we are keeping, yes, sir. The Automarks are the ADA compliant machines.
That's what they'll take off before they.
The new batteries, they probably will take that off, yes. Okay, so moving on to postage, the 4125010. I left that at the same because it's just one election. Most of our, what you're looking at is absentee ballots. You're also looking at the office mailings, the voter confirmation, voter registrations. But I still think the 12,000 would be enough, even with the increase in the postage. What's going on?
We thought, didn't
It went up, but they're anticipating another increase, I think, in January.
About the month.
Thank goodness for email. And text and
I
messaging.
think it will be going, and I don't know for sure, but I think it will be 60 cents. But they tried to break it down so that it wasn't all at one time. Printing 4125015, that's for our ballots. Absentee, when we're mailing out absentees, there are certain envelopes that have to be sent in. There's a mail out envelope and a mail in envelope. You also the mail in envelopes where they have to have the two signatures on there. That's what these are for. They change periodically with the different requirements that come from legislation and state law.
This is an increase of about 30%.
This is an increase of 30%.
But we're only gonna have one election. A little bit more than 30%.
No, 30% is what's added to the original numbers that I had in our budget. Questions on that? Moving on to 4125020, general insurance that is given to me by the county. Then 4125030, communications, and like I mentioned earlier, they will be changing to a different phone system sometime in April or May, and the long distance coverage will be included in the monthly fee versus having a long distance charge. The cell phone allowance is expected to remain the same. And we're moving on to 4125040, advertising, and that is for the ads for the general election and any changes with precinct moves or any required notices. We're required to send out 3 weeks prior to the election what will be on the election. So those are pretty much set amounts that we have to have, and with just one general election, that's what's in there. It's the amount for one election.
Required notices.
The required notices actually come from the state board.
And what did that represent? Newspapers, TV,
It's newspaper,
all newspapers.
on newspaper. There are some notices that I'm not required to put into the newspaper, and I try not to because of the expense to publicize that. So that goes out to the sunshine list, which is newspapers, TV, and radio. But there are a lot of the legal notices that have to go into the newspaper. And that's what these amounts cover. What's your question?
This is my favorite topic, as you know. It's advertising budget. And the whole issue of getting people to the polls, making sure they know what the election is about. You know, $500. This doesn't seem to me to be enough. We have new experience we can rely on to prior elections with Mike Patterson.
On that subject as well, do we know how we rank, how we compare with other counties? Are there counties that just beat us badly as far as getting voter turnout? You know, I'm really disappointed. 18-20% turnout.
I think everybody, that has been brought up in the huddle, voter turnout. That is something that is trying to be pushed at all levels. But it is, people show up to vote based on their personal preference. If they, this is just what I've heard. If we ask, I view voting differently than what my mom does. Voting to me is very important. That is one way you have to express your opinion. Some people don't view it that way. My mom, the way she was raised, you were told who to vote for, and it turned her against voting.
Doesn't it also depend on the type of election?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, municipal elections, only certain ones can vote. And countywide elections, they show up, but everybody has their own personal feelings, whether they want to show up and vote or not. Some see it as being very important, others don't. I don't know why. Because it is a right that you had to fight for.
Well,
Well,
The thing is that we need voter turnout to the various candidates. They're going to drive the turnout. That's why with some elections you see a great turnout. We don't. I guess I'm concerned whether what we're doing now, the way of advertising, it's like we were saying the other day. People get used to voting at a certain place. They will go to that place no matter what. Okay. If I'm wondering if what we do adequately notifies people, A, that there is an election, 2, what the election is about. And it gets confusing when you have a municipal election, county election, statewide election. Some people may just throw up their hands. So again, the question is, are we effectively reaching the average voter out there to let them know that this is an election and these are the offices involved? I won't get into issues, but these are the offices involved in this election.
because there's been surveys upon surveys done. I just know from the previous position I was in on how to get information out to the residents, not just about voting, just anything in general, the services that the county may offer. Trying to reach all the residents is difficult because not everybody gets the same newspaper. Not everyone watches the same television station. Not everyone uses Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever the other social media platforms are. We've tried everything. We even brought up the idea of putting in TVs in convenient marts that told the services while people were in the store so that they would know that elections was coming up or something. But you still got to have someone make sure that that information is changed periodically. So it's not a one-time fix. And those things change. Just like the social media platforms, they're changing. There's more and more that are coming out. And I'm trying to think what it was before Facebook. But MySpace. People are still using MySpace. I didn't know it still existed, but it does. But trying to reach everybody, there are some people that do not have cell phones still to this day. They will not use a cell phone. They still have their landline. So they don't have the Google or whatever the platforms are. There's just no answer on how to reach everyone. But word of mouth is the best way, but no one talks anymore either. They text. So I don't know the answer on how to reach. Now, one of the first things that I was asked when I first came here, there were several people that have podcasts, and you've got the TV station if I wanted to be on there. Especially coming in not knowing anything about elections, I was afraid I would mess up. I did do an interview with Kayla of radio because I trusted the person I had known for 10 years. And we were able to do that. And it was broadcast on the local radio station on a Sunday. But still, do I know how many people listen to Kayla? It's at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday night. I'm asleep.
You guys are all in the same position that the wife does. Tight. And I'm gonna make a proposal. We've got $3,500 in there for required advertising. I think we'll put another 1,000 in addition to the 1,000 that's here. And we should explore what it's gonna take. We've got public service announcement that won't cost us anything, except we've got to put it together.
Right.
We've got so many avenues that maybe if we touch enough of them, we will reach more people. I would like to see us at least at 25%, 1/4 of our people.
I vote make comparison with other counties.
Yeah, and I'd like to see a comparison of what they do, how they're looking for ideas, because I agree with Thurman that this is probably the biggest criticism that I have with our past that I'd like to see changed.
The people just don't take maybe effort to educate themselves about what's going on and who's running and what they're running for. What's important, they just don't make the effort, and it does take effort to keep up.
It does.
And just as much it takes effort to get out and hear what the candidates stand for.
Exactly.
That's what really drives it when you get right down to it.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't feel like they're doing it.
They vote on name recognition as opposed to what the candidates
And
flag.
I just think I think we can build that with the county commissioners on the basis that we're just not satisfied with our turnout here. We're looking for ways to improve that. And we need some really work.
That was brought up last night.
Yeah.
That was brought up during the commission's meeting.
I was gonna ask.
But how can we control it?
County commission.
How can we really control that?
You
We can't. And we were, asked, or it was said that he hopes that this board will look at that. How many ballots and how
Who's
many,
he?
Travis.
Tom Brown.
Well, no, it wasn't, Craig Travis was the one who was talking about the ballots and how much money. They asked her, how much did we pay for a ballot? And she told them. And then, one said that we need to, as a board, be mindful of that. But we can't get the people to come to the polls and make it accessible to them.
We can't engage in issues.
Yeah.
But I agree with Tom. The turnout in this county is different. And I think, I remember talking to my mother when the election, her and a few of her little old lady friends. And they had me with a question about the election. And of course, I couldn't answer all of those. I'm not saying that's what we should do. But one of the things that came out of this was, well, when is this election? You know, so being able to give them the date, and they live in different areas. So I was able to pull up a map on my phone and show them what precincts they were in. Some information about the election process itself is just not out there. So what we will be doing is educating them about the process. And hopefully, you know, it may move some people, it may have no impact. But I think it's worth the effort.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I'm still saying, how can we control getting them here to the polls and we have the ballots already printed? I mean, what will happen if we don't have enough ballots?
Well,
I'm just saying,
They'll run out.
you know,
Sorry.
if that's something we focus on, I'm saying, we focus on not spending as much money as we spend on printing ballots. We focus on that. If we run out, what happens?
It'd be a good problem,
No.
be a great
Would
problem.
that be, wouldn't that be an awesome problem?
Uh,
But I am hoping with everything that we have gone through over the last couple of weeks, that will spark an interest in voter turnout. I'm really hoping, because, I mean, a lot of people express their concerns about the one-stop voting, so I am hoping that we will have a larger turnout, because it is true, it drives the numbers. The per cost ballot is affected by the number that shows up, because it does not matter if one voter or 10,000 voters show up. If we order 20 ballots, because that's what we're estimating needed. If it's one voter, it's $20,000 that one ballot cost, or $2 for the 10,000. So it doesn't matter. I still have to order based on history and trends. The ballots have to be ordered. I am changing the way we're ordering them this time.
How many are you ordering this time?
I have not figured that number, because I am changing from precinct to style. Because precinct, I have to have 30 different types of ballots.
Change it to what?
Style.
Style?
We have two forms, the way that we order ballots. It's gonna make our job on the end of the election a little bit tougher, because the state board wants to receive their numbers by precinct. But it will be able to control the cost and the number of ballots. Because what we'll be able to do, we'll have to have 4 styles now, because of them dividing our county into 2 congressional districts versus 1. We were going to be able to use 2 ballots. So 2 ballots countywide. If one, I could send out, say 1,000 Republican ballots and 1,000 Democratic ballots to every precinct. It didn't matter if it was Draper or Moss Street. But if you order by precinct, you're locked in to that precinct ballot. You better get it right, because if you order 500 Republican, 500 Democrats, and you have 250 Republicans show up and 750 Democrats, I'm not gonna have enough ballots for the Democrats. Whereas if that were to happen, say at Moss Street, we're predicting 1,000 of each, and they actually have 2,000. Draper has 500 and 250. I would be able to get those ballots from Draper and take them to Moss Street. Whereas I could not do that as a precinct ballot, because it's just for that precinct machine. Does that make sense?
But the-
Yeah.
Unless it's different from voting, unless it's different on voting machine, or voting ballots. The price drops so drastically between order 1,000 and order 50,000.
Yes, but if I do it by precinct, again, I'm gonna have
Oh, yeah.
30 styles.
Yeah, I understand.
And I have to order enough for each precinct to cover that precinct based on registered voters in that precinct. Whereas if I order by style, I'm ordering for the whole county.
I recommend that we increase that to 5,500.
Which one required that?
Advertise.
Oh, advertising to 55. I agree.
May not end up spending it, depending on what kind of good ideas.
Right.
I think that's minimal.
So in the meantime, can we also ask that each of us brainstorm ways to get the word out
Yes.
and then come together with those, with the brainstorming ideas?
Well, I was gonna add to that by saying, what about the possibility of us having public workshops?
Yeah.
You know, if we can get people to come in, we can have someone, you know, because a lot of people think it's just as simple as going to the poll and voting, that's it, nothing else happens behind the scenes, there aren't any, you know, rules or regulations or state laws that, and the state dictates a lot of what we do. You know, they just need to be educated on the election process as a whole, I think. And also talk to them about elections. You know, that may be a way of, you know, getting the word out to the public. If we can get people interested enough to come.
And I can also find out, there are some counties that have citizens academies, where the citizens come in and actually learn about the different departments in the county. If elections could be added to that as a presentation. I think the county has, I don't know if it's actually called the Citizens Academy, but I know that the clerk to the board had asked for some donations for those, the ones that were coming in. But I can see if they could actually incorporate elections into that. I don't know if
They're not
elections has
having
been
that now.
included.
They've had that for about 10 years.
They dropped that,
Stopped
okay.
doing it.
What was the
Understand
reason?
more revived.
What was the reason for dropping?
Yeah, just
Attendance, they
attend, okay.
had 20, 30 people each time, and they exhausted all the group they felt like.
Oh,
All right. I just knew that was one of the things. when
But I
first
think,
came.
I think it's a great idea that something we can generate. Take it into the various places where we go into various cities.
Okay.
I think that's a good. It's probably 1,000 more. At another time.
Well, let me share with you my experience. I wrote 10 campaigns throughout this county. in my political career. And the thing that resonates quicker than anything with people is yard signs. Okay? And they are relatively cheap, and I've been going through my mind on how we can develop a yard sign that we know what the date is, and the times for this coming election. That is early, one-stop voting, and then regular voting. And the early one-stop makes this, I think, a feasible process. Yard signs are relatively cheap, like I said. And I think that, for example, where Tom and I vote, I guarantee you I'll get more, what I want to say, recurring visions than any newspaper ad, any TV ad, or any other media you want to look at because of the traffic that goes by the church where we vote. It's unbelievable. But what I'm thinking is, and I'm just using this, one of my first thoughts. Live here, vote here today. And list those dates down here. And get the bigger sign, which is one about this size. Put all the, times and everything down here, because you don't know what the next legislature is gonna do to change that. But you can buy to print, to take over that for the next election, whatever you want to. But if you get them or vote at such and such a place, like we've got 4 throughout the county right now, early one-stop voting. You put those signs anywhere, like in Eden, you can put them anywhere, in Rachel, you can put them anywhere along the way that people pass by. If they know they can vote, how many of them know that they can vote from 7:30? Huh? No, very few of them. That's a part of getting them to vote, but first you gotta get them educated to the fact why you need to vote. And the way to do that is with some kind of, hey, make them go to the Rockingham County website.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. If you put all that information on there, you're not gonna be able to read it. We're gonna-
And I'll tell you,
And
my experience is the most words that can be read on a billboard is 7. They will
Yes.
tell you that as you ride down the highway, 65, 70 miles an hour, the most you can retain is 6 words.
But I do like live here, vote here today.
That was pretty good.
And then, yeah, that was a good
I think
slogan.
it's a really great idea.
But we could start that process, get them printed, and as soon as early voting starts, and we don't know when it's gonna be yet, really.
Well,
I mean, we think we do,
the
but,
final decision is supposed to be made tomorrow.
yeah, but then the judges gotta approve that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's tomorrow.
I was
Well,
told that
that's-
there was a lot of favorable responses from both Democrats and Republicans on the maps that we just wrong.
Okay.
But we could get those signs printed right now with the time, the date. You just put Monday through Friday and list the dates. I mean, they can't read all the dates, but they see the sign there and you pull them up on Sunday and Saturday when they can't vote. That's precinct officials. They do that.
Madam Chair, you suggested that we get together for a brainstorming session. I think that'd be wonderful. I think if you could schedule that, we would basically do it.
Okay, I don't know if I said get together. I think I said brainstorm, and then we put it together.
Yeah.
We brainstorm our ideas, and maybe we get our ideas to her. That way we won't, but it's up to you guys, if you want us to come back together for that, but brainstorming and just doing it, we got our first idea,
And that's great.
which is a great idea.
We got a budget we need to get through.
Yes,
Right.
we do.
So I don't think we all
Right.
spend the time today.
Right.
Okay, all right. So we're turning to page.
Yes, one quick question. We've got 5,500 in one budget, 1,600 in another. Yeah. How many signs are you thinking?
Well, I think you got, right now, you got 4 precincts. I mean, you got 4 voting
So
places
you're
right
only
now.
focusing on the one stop,
Where's the 1,600?
it's a communications.
Oh, that's for the telephone.
Telephones.
Yeah.
That's separate.
4, let's see, 4 voting places, and if you put a minimum of 2 signs, and you could have the people that are conducting the early voting, they can place the signs and pick them up for Friday night after, and then pop them in. But anyway, I'd say you put at least 2 to 4 at each one, but then you need,
15.
you got, well, it wouldn't hurt to put them where they've had to vote in the general election. Start them thinking about that too, but you can't say vote here. But I'd say, you're talking, I have check prices on, put those signs together. But you gotta get a generic sign to start with, that you can put tape down here. The first one would have dates on, it, early voting. And then after that, you put tapes on for the general election.
I don't think we should do big signs because people notice the big signs more than they do. the little
Well,
signs.
you get, well, that's true, and those.
Because if you're
sometimes
going
get
65,
difficult,
70,
but-
or even 45 miles,
Okay,
you can't
so-
make that
Yeah.
sign.
So can we move forward with finishing up the budget and then,
Yeah.
cause this is hard. But let's get that done and then if you want to kind of, you
Yeah,
know,
I like it.
throw that out, that is a very good.
It is,
After we pop,
yes.
you put it all out there for us real quick.
After 10 elections, you think I learned something.
All right, moving on to 4125065 dues. That's just the cost for the association dues for the 3 staff members here. The 4125080 travel is to use, if we have to use our personal vehicles, we actually have access to the county vehicle. But this is if the county vehicle is not available or, extenuating circumstances. So that's why it's just a small amount. Moving down to 4125083 for training, we went into that, I increased that based on the prices of the food going up and anticipate the hotels going up as well.
Is that a requirement that we have to attend, or can we do it virtually?
As new board members, well, if they do it on site, it will be on site. I don't think they'll do it both ways. They may surprise me, but from what I understand, is either virtual or on site. And they have not been able to meet in person for over 2 years now. So they're really pushing for an in-person conference.
In person.
In person. And like I said, that should be in August.
No decision on who won.
No, it hasn't been set as of yet. All right, and you'll turn over to page 9, 4125085 staff training, same situation with the increase in the hotels and meals. And then down to general supplies, 4126010. That is supplies for this office, whether that is printer cartridges, copy of paper, anything, pens, notepads, anything general, cleaning supplies. That's all lumped in there, as well as our copy of charges.
Who do we rent our copiers?
We pay, I think we lease the copiers, I'm not sure, but I know we pay for the copies. So that sounds like a lease program to me. Because we get a quarterly charge and it's sent out to the departments. And they'll actually call, get the meter readings.
Do they maintain,
Quarterly.
Quarterly,
they service charges when they come, or do they?
I don't know, I have not had that as of yet, do you know?
I've not seen a bill ever.
So it may. be
So I
included
think
in the
it's
next
included.
one. Yeah, mainly it's the cost per copy. Precinct supplies, those are supplies that the precinct officials need out there, printer cartridges, copy of paper. It could be anything, like what I've gotten recently, we had totes to go in the storage, the security cages, computer bags. I mean, anything that they would need on site. for the elections process. No pads. And then at the last page is the capital outlay, and I will add the express vote machines to that. So that would be total of $110,000. The express vote machines plus the gutter repair and roof repair. That actually comes, it's on a separate sheet. You don't actually include it in your budget, but I still want this board to be aware of that and be okay with that being submitted as well. We still have to be done, the first two items that we done this year. We'll see.
So, does everybody need to go back to any line item? That you want to spend more time on? Visit,
We're gonna redo this, and give us a copy.
that is when you. The meeting, and then the workshop. The workshop,
Yes. The,
deadline for submission of the budget is March 11th.
and then
The
management
management team.
team, March and April. And then the board may call this board for a meeting if they so choose to.
How's that going? Is that going? You, Chairman?
I have-
Oh,
I do not have,
Well,
I came,
The last time it was just the two of us, we went to the workshop.
we just went.
We just went. We weren't invited. I mean, I don't think we were invited to come.
No,
We
were not.
just
I thought that
showed up.
size times.
Usually they do, they'll assign times if they want to talk to you. But you have to remember, I came in the middle of April,
April.
so I don't know how it's been handled.
Schedule. Department things and reviews. I don't know who all.
So you just might need to ask Lance.
Yeah.
You know, what will you do when it's time for us to talk about our into the whole board? If that's what you want, that's fine, whatever way you want to do it. But I don't know, you know.
We'll just see what happens. I don't know, every county handles it different.
And by the time they get to the workshop part, they've seen everything.
Yes,
They just want, you know, kind
They
of
ask
ask you a couple.
certain questions, you know, then why do you need this? Why do you feel this way? That kind of thing. Is this a necessity? Is there something that can be done? Otherwise, I mean, those are the kind of questions. It'll be sometime, this final budget has to be approved by the Board of Commissioners no later than June 30th. But they're looking, let's see, the manager's gonna do the recommended budget overview at the regular board meeting on May 16th. It may be the latter part of May. Because usually after he presents it to the board is when the board will ask for meetings. But we may have a meeting with the county manager and his staff ahead of time. I know that's done as well. That was what was done in the county I was with before, but they met with the county manager, went over it, but the board may want to meet as well.
Each board, each county manager, they have a different.
They have a different way of doing it.
Mhm.
So I'm just basing on experience from another county. I do not know how Rockingham does. salaries.
Last next one. Last
We do.
year.
Yes, the March 14th and 15th.
So what do you need from us right now?
I will get you the totals. Our next meeting is not till March 22nd. So we will have to have another meeting to do the final approval on the budget. Which we could actually,
These people will do that.
Okay, now you need to do something about it now.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I have to have
He
it submitted.
said, he spoke so fast, I couldn't get it out of my mouth.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that it has to be submitted prior to our next meeting.
Right.
So we're gonna have to have another meeting. I'm trying to think. And see, even our conference is after the deadline. So. If y'all like Tuesdays, we can do this again next Tuesday, which is March the 1st.
I can't, I'm about.
Or this week, we can actually recess this meeting and reconvene one day this week.
I can't.
Okay,
I'm just,
I was just saying that was an option,
but, I mean,
but we can also
Y'all
meet the 8th. That's another Tuesday, but you're 3 days from submittal.
so what exactly will we be doing
You're approving this budget.
as you plug in the
Yes.
numbers that we discussed today?
Yes.
Okay.
You're approved, this is the department's recommended budget.
Right.
Monday.
What is that date?
28th.
I'll change some things that
I mean,
I already have planned for that, but it's fine. Whatever. The doctor's appointments.
well, I know
can't change.
you had postponed something and,
That's gone.
um,
My anniversary came and went.
yeah, I'm sure.
But I did forget the first one. I'll never forget.
That's not good.
How long did it take you to put these numbers in? I mean, how much of a change did we make?
You
About
made,
5 things.
we made 3 changes.
I got one more thing, unless I don't understand. Looking at first page on salaries, the board. Did the board chair get a raise or something that's not in there?
No.
$275.
The chair usually makes $25 more than everyone.
All right, 275 times 12, is that 3,300?
Is,
Like, we got $50, right? Yes.
yeah, I don't know, let me see.
Give me the numbers. I'm ready.
275
275.
No, just say,
times 12,
well, 10 times 250 plus 550,
that's what I thought, it's 3,300.
2,400 for us.
Right, 250 times 12.
Well, you got us at 2,400, that
Yes,
can't be 250 a month.
That's
Right.
correct. That is correct.
Can't be.
3,000.
3,000, okay.
Okay, I can
We got
understand.
a raise right there.
You are on fire.
I missed that,
Right.
good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Because I did, so you are awesome. I will change that figure and then I'll have to change the FICA. And yes, very good. I missed that. And I thought I had added everything. Good job.
I can meet anytime.
What?
Now and next week.
What hours? Well, we could not
Well-
recess today and come back.
Well, is it better You can actually recess.
recess and let you plug these numbers in
And go eat some lunch.
go eat some lunch and
And
get
come
finished.
back. I
I'm
mean, you can
just
do that
asking.
I can do that.
Yeah.
if y'all would like to.
I've got another. Make it later today. I've already got a, I'm supposed to be at church 12 o'clock for Monday. So,
Well, the
Well,
only,
you've already missed it.
well, then I'm gonna start it out.
Like, you are.
can you
He
do
doesn't
3:30?
have a clock with you.
Can you do 3:30?
Right there.
I can do 3:30.
That's what, I mean, I didn't know.
What time?
But
That will give you enough time.
or 3,
3:30.
okay, or 4. See, I was only thinking you were the furthest away. That's why I was looking at you, because I didn't know.
No, 3:30 would be fine.
Like I said, we got that school bus traffic, if you live in Leeds. That down here, with all these schools moving in and out, and 3:30 is the time that they get out, so,
But you'll be here.
huh?
You'll be here.
You'll be here.
We'll no, we gotta get,
Okay,
we gotta get through that maze. I guess the best if you get here at 3 o'clock, you got to, you don't have to worry about traffic coming in.
so 3,
That gives you enough time.
Yeah, three.
okay, so, all right, so we just have a motion to whoever's going to make
Okay.
it.
I need to entertain a motion to, recess until 3 o'clock. And we will come back here to finish up the budget.
I make a motion that we recess until 3 o'clock. And return to vote on the budget.
Yeah. 3 o'clock.
That's
Okay, it has been moved and properly second that we recess now. Come back at 3 o'clock to vote on the budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, have the same right. You have agreed to recess until 3 o'clock. call us out of recess into a continuation of our special meeting from earlier today to entertain or complete our budget.
I make a motion that we resume, our budget meeting.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. We continue our budget meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same. We say the same. We are reconvening our budget meeting.
Okay, I went back and checked the board members' totals, and the $2,400 for the year is correct. The per month figures that I had listed were incorrect. So those numbers remain the same. I did change the legal fees and increase that by $5,000 to make that $20,000 for legal fees. And then raise the advertising $1,000 to make it $3,100. So the total for our fiscal year 2022-2023 budget without capital outlay and without the help section is $516,764.
Which is a 5.4% increase.
From 2018-19, yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. What is it?
It's a 15.03% increase from last year. For the current budget that we're in right now.
Board members, do you have any questions concerning corrections that were made?
I do not.
Got a question in the event, in lieu of not telling them, would it be smart to put an asterisk down the capital outlay and explain what that's for and when?
Yes, sir. We will
I
do
mean,
that.
that way, that's one question you've already answered,
Yes,
but it's something that they've got to know that they're looking forward to, whether they want to or not.
right. We would rather it be a choice than it be mandated.
Now, you said, what's the schedule for presenting this budget? Who will be the first group to present it to and there?
We have to give it to the assistant county manager. It has to be keyed in and ready to go by March the 11th.
Is there anything else we need to do before that?
Just, if there's anything you want to change this within this budget, now's the time. If not, but that this is the budget that we would like to present to the county.
Totals are reasonable. Deal where inflation is today. 15% increase, increase based on what you pay in the grocery store or other things that you buy.
On natural gas.
And electricity and water and so all those things in the municipality. I mean, everything's going up.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept this budget proposal submitted.
I second.
All right, it has been, motion and second that we accept the budget as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same right. We have adopted the budget that we have worked on today. Starting at 10 o'clock this morning, recessing at 12:20, coming back to review some minor changes. So we are ready to have Paula take the budget to the next step.
We know what the next steps are.
The next step, after it's been approved, administration will review that. If they have questions, they will call either myself and this board to discuss questions that they have before it's presented to the Board of Commissioners. They can make adjustments without talking to us. I think you would know, talk to us. And then once it's been presented to the board can either accept the manager's recommendations or they could change it as well. So there's several more steps before the budget is finalized.
Any other questions?
To the extent that we have the opportunity, I'd like to meet with them or have them meet with us so we can understand what they're thinking. And you have two pieces of paper on your desk. And I'll ask you to go just look at that. Madam Chair, whenever we have a brainstorming session, this might be something.
And then, Mr. Schofield, did you want her to add something to this? You were asking questions about. something to make
It's
that
possible to add on there the number of votes. See, compared to the population, registered voters, we know what ours are.
So if there's nothing else called to our attention, I might entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Six.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we adjourn our budget meeting, our call budget meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same sign. We have adjourned at 3:09. For the Rockingham County Board of Elections, February 22nd, 2022, 10 o'clock a.m. at the Rockingham County Board of Elections, 240 Cherokee Camp Road, Reedsville, Illinois State. I'd like to welcome all of our board members here. And those of you who are watching via Zoom, we'd like to welcome you as well in the comfort of your home or in your offices. I call for a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same right. We have
Opposers have the same likes.
Where the hell she get that from?
Mhm.
3 budget discussion. Holly.
Okay, I followed up on
Well, what happened to the freaking sound?